The backlog, the bane of every gamer's existence. It seems to always pile up, and it doesn't matter how many games we complete, it always feels like there's 10 more waiting for us that we've purchased, but sometimes don't even remember purchasing. What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Arctic the Fox, and this is a video about the backlog and how I have been adding to my backlog this year instead of completing it. In a year that really should be a year focused on completing the backlog, because this hasn't been an overly, how do I put this in a way that's not offensive? There's been a lot of great games, but they're coming in with good intervals between each other. Last year we had so many games right after each other that it was almost impossible to keep up. Basically was impossible. I mean, one of the only games I completed this year is from last year in February, I think, because I couldn't get to it at the time and I was playing other stuff. So yeah, the backlog and this year is something that is almost synonymous with each other for me at this point. I don't know if anyone else feels like that, but I felt like this year was going to be a year where I put a major dent in my backlog, and I ended up doing the opposite and adding a lot more to my backlog. And I think that's okay. I don't think anyone should be worried about something like that. If you don't know, a backlog is a stack of games or a library of games that you haven't finished yet and that you plan to get to maybe sometime in the future. Sometimes. Anyways, this is just a little slight visual representation of what I've done this year. This is my backlog. These are the games that I'm currently playing, and this is the game that I've completed. Obviously, there are some other games that I have completed. If you see on the channel, there's reviews of Dragon's Dogma and Welcome to Paradise. Those are games that I have completed. They're just digital, and they are review copies, so I didn't want to include them in my own backlog that I have created for myself. So why is the backlog why is the backlog so much bigger than my completed games and my currently playing games? Well, currently playing games, obviously you can't play everything at once, and I try to keep it to a minimum, and I try to keep it quite varied. So as you can see, I have Persona 4 Golden. This we recently picked up in a video, last week's video actually, and I'm loving it. I think I'm about 8 hours in. Really good game, especially for the PS Vita. I felt like I was enjoying my Vita games, but I was never really completing them and never really understanding why everyone loved the Vita. I love the Vita, I just didn't understand the whole hype around it, and playing something like this really has shown me why. Then I'm playing Alan Wake on the PlayStation 5 at the moment as a horror game. I haven't ever played a horror game. This is tying into one of my other videos where I am trying different genres, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this. It's not as scary as I thought it was going to be. And then we have the big one. I am still playing Dark Souls. I only have two bosses, I should say, left in Dark Souls, and I love Dark Souls. Dark Souls is easily one of the best games I've played this year, if not the best. But with that said, I think it's really important to establish what my terminology around completion is. I used to be a gamer that strove for all the trophies and getting the platinum trophies, and that started around about in 2022, and it kind of carried into 2023, but 2023 was a really busy year outside of gaming for me, so I didn't really have the time to do things like that. I think I only got like 2 or 3 platinums last year, and some of them were auto pops, which is really, I didn't really enjoy that. But last year I didn't have a time to complete very many games, so I needed one game that really carried me through the year, and for the most part that was Hades. I have spoken about Hades before. Phenomenal game. I really recommend it for everyone who hasn't tried it. But that did leave me wanting to do a lot more this year. I wanted to play a lot more games that I hadn't played and a lot more different genres, which is what we've spoken about in the past. And yeah, going completely off topic, what I do need to explain to you is what I'm considering my level of completion. There are different levels of completion. I mean, there's those that go for 100%, that want to finish everything in the game. And I do that in some games, but this year I haven't quite done that. Tying in with 100% is those that do trophy hunting and achievement hunting. That's also another major time sap, and as much as I enjoy trophy hunting, I really do. I love collecting platinum trophies. It's one of my favorite things to do. I've slowed down on that just so that I can experience games for what they are meant to be. So like their story game, for story games, I just want to experience the story without having to play it 2 or 3 times and then by the end of the platinum run, I actually don't enjoy the game anymore. This is sort of what happened when I was playing Guardians of the Galaxy on PlayStation Plus. I played Guardians of the Galaxy one full time through and I enjoyed it. Then I went to go get the platinum trophy and I had a glitch trophy after playing a full second playthrough. So I definitely did not want to go into a third playthrough, and it almost made me dislike the game. And the game is actually really good. Guardians of the Galaxy is such a great game. The glitch trophy was a pain, but if I had carried on playing it just to get the trophy, I would have then fallen in love with the game. I think I would have disliked the game even more, which would be sad because it's actually a really, really good game. So those are the types of completion. So there's 100% achievement hunters or trophy hunters, and then there's just what I'm doing this year, and that's trying to finish stories. I want to finish the stories. I want to experience these worlds. The only game that's slightly different is Dark Souls. You can finish Dark Souls without doing every single boss in the game, but I felt like it's Dark Souls. You should probably experience every boss that the game has to offer. So I did that, but that doesn't get you anywhere near completing the Platinum Trophy 1 or 100% completing the game. It doesn't get you anywhere near. But what's great about Dark Souls is I don't mind putting it down for a couple months after I've finished it now, hopefully in the next few weeks, and then coming back to it maybe at the beginning of next year or some other time. I don't think that's going to matter too much. I think it's one of those games that you can do with that. And then in between Dark Souls and Dark Souls 2, because as you guys know, I bought the trilogy, I want to then play other games. So I'm playing Persona, I want to finish Alan Wake, I might move on to Persona 5, but I know that's like 110 hours, which would be a major time sap. But as you can see, I still have numerous games, and I have 3 sealed sets of games here, and that's because I just can't stop buying games on sale. And this is usually where the problem comes in. We always buy more games and add to our backlog instead of completing our games and adding them to the completed pile. So, as much as I don't like seeing a whole bunch of games completed, it actually makes me a little bit excited because I've changed the way I've thought about it now. I used to think about, oh my gosh, I've bought all these games, I'm wasting all my money, I'm not doing this. But there's going to come a time where I'm not buying games, there's no games coming out, and I can turn to my backlog and be like, oh wow, I've got some great titles in here. I can go into these and play these now. Which is something I couldn't do last year because last year I was just way too busy. And I think that's really exciting. So buying more games doesn't have to be a bad thing. It doesn't have to be something where like, oh, I should complete this game before I buy this game or before I start this game. Sometimes you buy a game, you start it, you don't finish it, and you end up not liking it. I'm trying to think of a good example. Actually, one that I don't have. The Last Guardian. This is a game that I was super excited for when I saw the trailers and stuff, and I eventually bought it on sale. Wow, must be a good couple of years ago. And I never finished it because I didn't quite understand it. And for the longest time, it bugged me, and I didn't understand why it was bugging me. And it's because I wanted to love this game, and then I never finished it. But it will be a game that I get to at some stage in my life. It's just wasn't right for now, and I didn't put it in the backlog because I completely forgot about it until right now. But we can buy games, add them to our backlog, and we shouldn't have to feel guilty about it because we know we eventually will maybe try it out and play it. Sometimes it sucks when you try out a game and you don't like it and then you kind of just stuck with it. That does happen, but hopefully that only happens like every 20 games you play, and most of the games you play you do enjoy. But I don't think it's a bad thing to add to your backlog. What can become a little bit of a problem is the services. We have a lot of game services at the moment, PlayStation Plus, Xbox Game Pass, and if we tried to maybe beat all of those games, we'd never do it. I'm sorry, there's just no way you're going to beat all the games on those services. It's just not possible, especially it'll be even more impossible if you're a 100% completionist. It's just not going to happen. And that's okay. On services like that, it's more about picking and choosing the games that you really want to play that you haven't had a chance to play. 2022 is a great example for me. It was the first year PlayStation Plus came out, and I played all the games that I had missed out on. It was the year that I got my PlayStation 5. I played Ghost of Tsushima, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, the list goes on and on. Stray. And it was such an amazing time. And I was only picking the games that I really wanted to play at that time. So streaming services should not, in my opinion, count towards your backlog. I think those are titles that you should just pick and choose that you want to play. I think if you including a backlog, and we'll get into what I've done to create a digital backlog sort of thing, I don't think streaming services should be part of it. I think if you see on my backlog, I have a spreadsheet. Let's get into that. So I've created a spreadsheet with the titles that I have, the titles that I've completed with a little tick next to it, and what platforms I have them on. A good example is, oh gosh, the God of War collection. I have it on PlayStation or PS Vita, PlayStation 3, and I actually have both these games on PS2 and on PS2, sorry. So I have God of War 1 and God of War 2 on PS2. And instead of saying, oh, I need to complete all 6 of these games, I've combined them all, just saying that I own them all on these platforms and that I will complete one of them. These are games, obviously, that I played way back when, but I don't actually think I ever finished them as a younger person. So having the opportunity to play them maybe on my PS Vita has been fantastic, and I think that'll count towards my completion goal. My list also includes how long the main campaigns take, the amount of trophies they have, if they have trophy support. Obviously, the PS2 games and PSP games don't have trophy support. PS1 games, obviously, don't have trophy support, and things like that. So I've created this list, but one thing I haven't done is created a total amount of time that it would take to complete this list. And I think if I had done that, it would have created an even more daunting scenario where I would not want to go into my games and play them. The games that I predominantly enjoy are single player games where you have great stories. And I've moved away from just doing big open world games such as Horizon and maybe just some more straight linear games like The Last of Us. Obviously, Alan Wake is sort of like The Last of Us. It's a linear game, a linear horror game. But I've been trying a lot more things such as JRPGs, the Soulsborne genre, and then, okay, well, this is a bad example, but the one game I have completed this year has been a big open world with a great story. Those are the type of games that I have been completing, and those are the type of games that I want to include on my list. I don't want to include games like, how do I put it, like Farming Simulator, where you can't actually finish it. You can get all the platinum or all the trophies for it, but you can't finish it in a story sense because it's not one of those type of games. Jurassic World Evolution has a story, but for the most part, it's an open a sandbox game where you can just create your own parks. So things like that I haven't included. Well, I have included, but you'll see that there's no completion. How do I put it? There's no campaign completion criteria, things like that. And that's my list. I think it is nice to have a list, and where this list could come into play is, say you're having a really difficult time to choose your next game. Maybe put a few of them in a randomizer wheel. Maybe if you can't decide between playing retro and playing modern, you put a wheel and you say retro, modern, and then you choose like that. I think there are opportunities to be had when you have created a list like this, and I am happy to have a list. I'm not so happy to see all the blank spaces in between the ticks, but that just comes with the territory. I don't think you need a list. I think you just need to enjoy the games that you are currently playing without having to stress about the games that you haven't played yet. If you saw 2 days ago, I think, I added even more games to my collection, and oh gosh, this one's loose. We're going to open this right now. These each have 2 games in them. So that's 4 more games that I've added to my backlog. But these are games that I have been wanting for a very, very long time. And they came on sale. And sales are very hard to resist for gamers. But it's okay because just adding it to our backlog... Oh gosh. That's better. Adding games to our backlog and then having the opportunity to play them later on down the line shouldn't be something that we worry about. And I think that's the main thing I want to get across. Don't be worried about adding games to your backlog. The time will come when we do have the opportunity to play these games. Or maybe try play a few games at the same time. I know that when I play Dark Souls after I've been killed 3 or 4 or 5 times, I get very frustrated and then I need to stop what I'm doing and try a different game. Try something a little bit not so tedious or strenuous. So I'll hop into something like Persona 4 Gold. Before Persona 4 or before having a multiple stacks like this, I always had Gran Turismo 7 ready to go because that's not a story game. That's just something where you race around a track and you're getting your frustrations out that way. But yeah, I think let me know what your backlog looks like at the moment. Just tell me, is your backlog like mine, where there's so many incomplete games and there's so many games that you're playing at the moment and there's only like one game that you finished? I mean, we're still early on in the year. We're only, what, a quarter through the year? And I think there's still lots of time to come. And I think there's lots of games that are still going to come out that are going to be brand new that everyone's going to want to play. But don't let that worry you. Backlog is actually something to be excited about, I think. I think having a backlog shouldn't be, as I've been trying to reiterate numerous times now, it shouldn't be something that worries us. It should be something that excites us. I think it's something where if you have a full stack like this of games, you have so many different genres where you can go in and then eventually just pick what you want to play. And I think that's really exciting. So let me know how big your backlog is, how many games you have completed, and what games you're currently looking to add to your backlog. If you're in South Africa at the moment, Kudu's having their birthday sale. I picked up the 2 Star Wars collections from Kudu's birthday sale. This isn't sponsored or anything. I just really like their services. As I said in my short, when I purchased these 2 games, they really quick. I ordered on Tuesday, received it on Wednesday, so that was fantastic. Really quick in South Africa with their delivery. Unfortunately, they're not international. It is just in South Africa, but they're having really good sales for games, for consoles, for accessories. So maybe go check them out. They really do awesome stuff. But other than that, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I hope that you comment down below what's going on with your backlog. Tell me if you're conquering it or if it's conquering you. But either way, don't worry about it. Enjoy the opportunity to have multiple games to play, because maybe someone doesn't have that opportunity. Ever think about it like that? I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend and that you will join me next week, Friday, for another video. Thank you so much. Cheers.